Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. It's been a while since we've done anything with regard to speaking better, so we're just going to go over something about mouth movement a little later in this podcast. But first of all, I just want to tell you that we're currently having a storm, which is out of the blue. Out of the blue is a phrase which simply means without warning. So this storm just suddenly arrived out of the blue. Well, that's not really true. I mean, I did hear some warnings from the weather service, but I don't think anyone was prepared for the extremities of this particular storm because it is very, very windy out there. I know in the past when we had storms, it was quite normal to try to brace them. That means to deal with them, to carry on with your normal life. You still went out to catch a bus. You still would expect trains to run. But these days it seems those things just don't happen. They tell you to stay at home. They tell you to work at home, and all train services are cancelled. So yesterday they just shut down everything. And I'm thinking, where's that spirit of the British people? You know, that stoic attitude of keeping calm and carrying on, as we see in the T-shirts. I don't know. That attitude seems to have gone now. So that's a pity. And speaking of out of the blue, another thing I read today is that Phantom of the Opera, that famous theatre production, is closing on Broadway. Broadway refers to that famous street in New York that's become synonymous with the American theatre industry. That street runs from Manhattan to the Bronx, and the term Broadway is often used to describe the professional theatre productions which happen in the 41 theatres across the theatre district. And they're known for their high level of quality and performance. So Phantom of the Opera, which is a British stage performance, you know, if they do very well, they always end up on Broadway. The Broadway one is closing after 35 years. So I think after the pandemic, they're finding it difficult to sell tickets. To be honest with you, I'm not surprised. I mean, the Phantom of the Opera is one of these over-the-top productions with huge costumes and big, expensive style sets. That just means the background, you know, and the production cost, it's huge. I think the days of those kinds of things, and indeed the days of theatre, are not really very fashionable anymore. I think those days have gone, you know. So yeah, Phantom of the Opera closes on Broadway. If you're enthusiastic about something, you can say you're a buff. Now be careful with this because it has a few different meanings, not all of them tasteful. Okay, so you need to have an adjective there. You can say, for example, I'm a theatre buff. I'm a radio buff. Yeah, so the word buff can mean something that you just are very enthusiastic about. Some people are movie buffs. I'm not a theatre buff, but when I was a boy, before the internet, Phantom of the Opera was one of those things that everyone wanted to see. And if you were the kind of person who had managed to get to see Phantom of the Opera, then people would think, oh, wow, that person actually got to see it, because you had to book tickets years in advance. Of course, it's all changed now. People don't really care much about the theatre, but it does have a lovely soundtrack. And for those of you who've seen the movie, then you probably would really remember some of the wonderful songs. Yes, so it's closing on Broadway. I think there's a song, isn't there, on Broadway? Is that Neil Diamond? I don't remember. But anyway, getting back to our mouth movements, that's what we want to talk about today. So, as you all know, if you've ever had a lesson with me, I'm always telling you to pull your mouth down, to keep your top lip horizontal, and to move the bottom bit down. I mean, that's why when British people speak, well, more or less, many of us look evil because we don't smile. We look rather sinister. If you think of James Bond, for example, my name is Bond, James Bond. And then when our royals try to smile, oh dear, it looks disastrous. They have this way of smiling by pulling their top lip apart and showing teeth. Ooh. By the way, speaking of showing teeth, I was rather amused yesterday in a story in the newspaper about a woman who was in McDonald's and she saw this man sitting there who was unshaven, staring at the table, and she thought, oh, he's been there 10 minutes. He's obviously homeless. So she bought him a Big Mac meal. And she went and gave it to him and said, here's a meal. I hope you enjoy it. And just at that moment, the McDonald's staff member came over with a huge tray and said to him, oh, sorry for the wait, sir. I know it's been 10 minutes. Here's your food. So he wasn't homeless at all. And she was mortified. She was really, really embarrassed. So she very quickly left. I don't know. I think if someone did that with me, I would think it would be funny, you know. But yeah, she was mistaken. She said, you know, I was watching him, and my mind just ran away with my thoughts. I just assumed he was homeless. I'm not sure what's more scary about that: the fact that she was watching him for 10 minutes, or the fact that she was very condescending and bought him a meal. You can't make assumptions like that anymore, but I suppose it was a nice thing for her to do. But anyway, getting back to the mouth movement. So yeah, so just take your finger, put it on your top lip and pull your mouth down. And you'll notice your vowel sounds will immediately change. Don't try to pull your mouth from side to side. Just put your finger on the top of your lip and pull it down. Yeah? If you want to practice, you can say, for example, my name is. Yeah, and you hear the A sound, maybe you are saying it as ah or e, will have more of a roll to it. A and O, ah, I, and you. These sounds are much easier to make if you hold your top lip in place. And once you get used to talking that way, you'll hear that it sounds much more natural. So you just keep your top lip stiff and you speak by pulling the bottom of your mouth down. You pull your chin down, basically. So that's a little tip for today. Also, when we speak, you'll notice that British people, we don't speak loudly. I mean, we sometimes raise our voices, but that's more of an American thing. You know, British people, we simply change our intonation and our stress to get what we want. So, for example, if you're talking to a British person and they're not happy, they might change their intonation. For example, I told you before not to do that. without raising the voice, okay, it seems that you didn't understand the first thing that I said. Yeah, so they speak with the same volume, but they obviously stress and let you know that they're not happy. Actually, I used to have a boss many years ago, and it was very strange because when she was unhappy, like most bosses here, she couldn't shout and scream. Some of them do, but she wouldn't raise her voice, of course, because that would not be appropriate in a quiet office. So she used to start moving her foot in a circular motion. And of course, in these days of open plan offices, it was very clear to see that she was getting upset because you could see her foot starting to move like a clock, basically. It would move in a circular motion. And that was a sign that she was getting upset. And then at the moment when she was most upset, she would kind of like point her foot at the person. So yeah, watching her on the telephone was hilarious. You could see that her foot would start moving clockwise, then it would move anti-clockwise, and then suddenly it would stiffen and point at something. Sometimes the person that she's talking to, if they were present. Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, we all had that foot pointed at us many times. So anyway, it goes to show that we don't show our feelings clearly by, our body language. We can, of course, if someone's intimidating us, we can stand up to give a psychological idea that we're not okay with it, to defend ourselves. But generally, we, especially in the office, we keep a very straight tone without the volume being increased, and we simply change our tone. Now, that means that our volume stays the same, and that mouth movement coming down stays the same as well. Because when you start to shout, of course, your face changes and your mouth changes. It takes a bit of practice to keep yourself calm all the time, but it's very, very important. So, yeah. Anyway, back to the mouth movement. Top lip stiff, bottom lip is what you speak with. Okay, so you don't speak with the top of your mouth. And likewise, your mouth does not extend horizontally to your ears. Okay, even if you're happy, you don't pull your mouth like that. Okay, all the way along your face. You use your energy to pull your mouth down vertically, not horizontally. And if you want to smile, again, it tends to be mostly with the bottom lip as you pull, showing your teeth. Yeah, these are all aristocratic habits of British people. So there we are. And just to go over the phrase that I was using earlier, out of the blue, something that happens unexpectedly. You can hear there that I get my breathing right by taking a big deep breath in and pushing the words out, pulling my mouth down at the same time. Out of the blue simply means something which happens suddenly or unexpectedly, out of the blue. That's been, I think, the lyric of one or two songs as well, out of the blue. And so has Mr. Blue, which is a famous song from the Netherlands. Blue is often used to talk about someone being sad. They've got the blues, or they feel a bit blue today. But out of the blue is something which just happens unexpectedly. There we are. So that's it from me today. I hope you've enjoyed this, and let's catch up again soon. See you all. Bye.